How's everybody doing? Smoking cigars with Howlin' Blind, Muddy Slim. That's me. 60-minute Jelly Belly Toe Jam Man here to learn you some blues and to teach you a little bit about cigars. What I'm smoking here is a new little cigar called Omar Ortez. These are made in Nicaragua. And this is not a Maduro. This is the natural. The Maduro I smoke in a future video is a much darker and made in Honduras. Great cigars. Very inexpensive. Very, very decent cigars. I suggest you give these a try. For those of you who are thinking about smoking cigars, let me steer you away from machine-made cigars. Machine-made cigars contain some tobacco, but non-tobacco products like floor shavings, wood shavings, sawdust. If all goes well, the quality of audio on this video will be excellent because of this. Woohoo! New fancy microphone. It's called a I forget what it's called. It's a condenser mic. It's a great mic. It's a recording mic. I use it in my studio when I record, and I thought, well, I'll just hook it up to the computer and use it like this. What have I been reading here? This great book by Zeno Davidoff, Connoisseur's Book of the Cigar, and I'll be talking a little bit about that later on. What I want to talk about today, February the 18th of 2009, is the latest stimulus package by Barack Obama. Hyperinflation. The fact that a dollar that used to be only worth 75 cents is now probably worth about 35 cents after the because what happens when you create money out of thin air? It's a money factory. The Federal Reserve Bank manufactures money. I'm getting right into it. Federal Reserve Bank manufactures money. It's like Ford manufactures automobiles, RCA manufactures TVs, DVD players, CD players. The Federal Reserve manufactures money. They go out and they get the raw material, which is paper, a special paper, and they manufacture money out of thin air, which is worth less than the DVD player that RCA manufactures out of actual things. They get metal, and they get wires, and they get silicone, and they get all this stuff, and they put it together, and it produces a beautiful DVD player that sells for $49.95. Philips makes, in my opinion, the best. I'll make no bones about it because they make what's called a DivX player. We'll talk about that later on because you can put on a DVD disc 6 movies in DivX form and watch 6 movies on one DVD in excellent quality. We'll talk about that later. But the Federal Reserve manufactures money out of thin air. This is the money that we use to buy that $49.95 DVD player from RCA. Now, have you ever heard the terms supply and demand? Okay. I used to be a record collector back in years and years ago. And Elvis Presley produced, let's say Sun Records made, 300 copies of That's All Right Mama by Elvis Presley. Elvis Presley became famous, and everybody wanted an original pressing of Sun Records' That's All Right Mama with Elvis Presley. That sold probably in 1958 for about 58 cents or 59 cents, something like that. But in good condition. When he started getting famous, the value went up because there was, let's say, only 100 in existence. Let's say there was probably more, but let's say there was only 100 in existence. Okay, a couple of them got bought up and nobody wanted to sell them. So some guy says, "I'll give $2 for that record." Okay, well, 3 people said, okay, I'll sell it for $2. That means there was 3 available. That 58-cent record now is selling for $2. Let's say another 5 years goes down the line, and somebody says, you know, that was a key record in Elvis's career. I want it. I'll go $10. And over the years, the value of the record grew because there were less of them and more people wanting them. If you only got one person wanting them, then, you know, it's probably anything's only worth what you can get of it. But anyway, let's say that's basically supply and demand. In the end, when there's only one left and 80 guys wants it for their collection, you know, let's say it might go for $1,000. That has nothing to do with inflation. That has to do with supply and demand. Now, there are X amount of dollars available in the United States, or X amount of dollars made. Back in the good old days when we were on the gold standard, it was based on the value of the gold we had. Let's say the gold that the United States held in Fort Knox was worth $200 billion. Then that meant there were only $200 billion in paper money and coins available, which meant $1 was worth $1 worth of gold. $5 was worth $5 worth of gold, and etc. Then when we went off the gold standard, and I'm not going to explain it, just do your research, Google the gold standard, find out what happened, and you'll get pissed off, which I want you to get pissed off. It's going to take a lot of people getting pissed off to get things changed. Okay, then when we went off the gold standard, and the Federal Reserve was then able to print up money based on, I say this piece of paper is worth $1. Federal Reserve draws a picture of President Washington on it, puts $1 up here, says this note is now legal tender and can be redeemed for another one just like it. Not redeemed for $1 worth of gold, but redeemed for another one just like it. If you get 5 of them, you can trade 5 of them in for one that's got a picture of Abraham Lincoln on it. Nice. Anyway, people started collecting money, you know, and they put it in safe places called savings accounts in the bank because they thought this money is going to be worth something in a couple years. Well, now let's say there's $400 billion worth of paper dollars and coins. Now that dollar is only worth about 50 cents because there's a lot of them. Supply and demand, you see? Just like the Elvis Presley record. If, let's say, Sun Records produced, let's say, 400 copies and said, hey, you record collectors, look what we have. We have found another 300 copies of That's All Right Mama by Elvis Presley on Sun. The value of that record would have went down, and more people could have had it for less money. Well, the value of your dollar is going down because of the fact that the Federal Reserve prints money out of thin air. Nothing. It backs it with nothing. Except for their words saying that this dollar will buy you $1 worth of baloney, which is baloney. $1 worth of baloney cost 25 cents just a few years ago. Cost a nickel back in the 60s. Might cost $5 next week. You never know. Now, I want to say the stimulus package that Barack Obama has proposed that everybody wanted, and now we find out that the money is not going to go to the American people, except in the form of a tax cut. And I want to do my part with the money that I'm getting to save. In other words, I'm not going to have to pay $500 to the Federal Reserve, IRS or whatever, in interest payments. $500 a year, which is going to balance out to about $7.07 a week extra on my paycheck that they're not going to take out. You know what I'm going to do with that $7? Because I feel like we need to help stimulate the economy. I'm going to go out and buy me a brand new house, a $200,000 home. I figure I can do it for $7 a week.